What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing our Monday Night Raw review, the first Monday Night Raw after Backlash, and it wasn't. I have to say this week's show wasn't as good as the shows that preceded it, but if I'm gonna be honest with you, I still enjoyed watching it. Obviously, I think if you guys are gonna see what this Friday SmackDown is gonna look like, I think it's gonna be this Friday SmackDown is loaded and. It's not for the faint of heart that the roster of SmackDown is legit better than the roster on Raw, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how it pans out. But WWE Raw started with, of course, Cody Rhodes. I swear Cody Rhodes has started like the last 4 or 5 shows. I have no idea if this is the case or not, but here comes Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is talking about how much the World Heavyweight Championship means to him, how this is going to be his finest moment, how Brock Lesnar, he just wants to be done with Brock Lesnar after one match. And Cody Rhodes is like, you know what, I'm going to be very heartbroken if I don't win this World Heavyweight Championship tournament. So, the tournament bracket came out, and along this announcement, we had Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes, and Miz, which is a pretty good triple threat match. Then you got Nakamura versus Rollins versus Priest, which I think is an absolute banger. Theory versus Lashley versus Sheamus, which is probably the least anticipated of the triple threats. Styles versus Edge versus Rey Mysterio is what I want to talk about. That is crazy. That match is like a main event of a PLE worthy. And it's literally on a SmackDown this Friday. It's crazy. And this is going to go alongside Roman Reigns and the Women's Tag Team title match. Ridiculous. SmackDown this Friday is going to be much watched TV. But that was pretty much the bracket. And then a cool little moment here. Seth Rollins' triple threat match was first against Damian Priest and Shinsuke. And we got a little moment here. Cody Rhodes staring down Seth Rollins. We still haven't had that third match yet. I don't think we need it right now, to be honest with you, even though there are some people clamoring for it. I don't think we really need it. But I just think this was a cool little moment here. The match itself, Seth Rollins, Priest, and Nakamura, I mean, what else did you expect? That match was a banger. And I really love that Shinsuke and Seth Rollins got the focus at the end. I love Damian Priest. And I think eventually Damian Priest could be a champion. But Shinsuke and Rollins were just absolutely 5 stars in this match. And I was expecting Damian Priest to be pinned here 110%, but Nakamura ended up getting pinned due to a stomp. Seth Rollins also broke up the pin with a frog splash and then pinned Nakamura, which I thought was really cool. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We wanted Seth Rollins to win, and that's exactly what he did, and he would advance to the main event of Raw. But before that, we had probably one of the more funnier backstage segments. Imperium, Luke Kaiser, and Vinci showed themselves on Raw for the first time. They said that Gunther was going to show up on Raw next week, which means Gunther is going to show up in a pretty badass way, and he's going to absolutely destroy a member of the Raw roster. But Kevin Owens was making fun of the turtleneck. He thought Imperium sounded funny, and yeah, I mean Kaiser's Kaiser's got that little turtleneck on, so Kevin Owens was poking fun at it. But, it was a funny backstage segment, and I wasn't expecting to get Imperium versus KO and Sammy already. I'm kind of shocked that they kind of pulled the trigger. I would have thought Imperium versus KO and Sammy would be a good PLE tag team title matchup, but, we got it here. Unless Gunther plans to get involved in some way, then we're talking. But following this, we had Otis versus Mustafa Ali. I didn't see this on the Raw plans. I don't really care anyways. But, it's the whole angle with Maxine Dupree and the Maximum Male models and all that stuff, which is a storyline that I honestly think is going to be a little bit of fun. But Mustafa Ali winning is very much cool. I love that. I think Mustafa Ali deserves more wins. I think he's making the most out of his character right now. And he ended up winning because of a complaint between Chad Gable and Maxine, which I was expecting as soon as they were both up on the ring apron. But this match didn't really last long. But personally, the big takeaway is that Mustafa Ali won this match. And he's still a free agent, so he could pop up on SmackDown. He could be randomly in NXT. he can be in an NXT parking lot segment. He can really pop up anywhere. Next up, we had the second triple threat match, which was Finn Balor, Miz, and Cody Rhodes. And I thought this was the better. And obviously, I showed Finn Balor because I wanted Finn Balor to win. I think Finn Balor deserves this. I would love to see Finn Balor at Night of Champions. But first, he had to get past the main event, and first, he had to get past this match. And the match, once again, ended up being very, very good. And, you know, by the end of it, Cody Rhodes was hitting his disaster kicks. He was hitting his crossroads. And then when Cody Rhodes shouldn't have pinned Miz after the first crossroads, but he decided to torture Miz. I mean, I don't know what Miz did to Cody Rhodes. I guess Cody's frustrated with Brock Lesnar lurking around, even though he said he was done with him. But Cody Rhodes ended up hitting 3 crossroads, and when he went for the cover, Brock Lesnar came in and F5'd Cody Rhodes on the concrete floor. Which I thought, I was like, oh, WWE did a good job timing this, because I thought Brock wasn't going to come. After Cody Rhodes went for that cover, I was like, oh my god. But Brock Lesnar came in, and my goodness, Brock with the scars and the stitches in him, it's just so damn scary. It's like one of the scariest human beings on the planet. And Brock Lesnar had a little bit of a meme content here. He's like, you want to fight? He's like, look at me. Cameraman 50 times zooms in. And Cody Rhodes is looking like he's about to pass out or die or something. But Brock Lesnar wants one thing, and he wants a rematch at Night of Champions. And he isn't going to stop ruining Cody until he gets it. Well, I mean, he ruined Cody, because Cody at the beginning of the show said the World Heavyweight title was one of his last shots to finish the story. And Brock Lesnar took it away from him. And I thought this was a funny segment, but at the same time, it is so badass, and I absolutely love Brock Lesnar. Like, this made me realize, yeah, I kind of love Brock Lesnar, because this is so cool. And it felt so real that is what it's all about. This is what I love. And this is going to make me more invested in the match between Cody Rhodes and Lesnar. So Lesnar did a good job, even though it produced some meme content. And just, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about by the scary face of Brock Lesnar, this is what it was. And that picture kind of tells you it all. How scary Brock is, and what I mean by it's one of the scariest things it's one of the scariest human beings on the planet, because it is. Next up, we had Rhea versus Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke getting a match kind of shocked me, but I do think Dana Brooke deserves a match. Dana Brooke has been in WWE for a while, and I think she's got that talent, and she did a great service to WWE by being involved in so many trash-ass storylines, including the 24/7 title. I will never, ever stop trashing the 24... I never liked one 24/7... The only 24/7 title storyline. The only thing I liked is that R-Truth won a lot of titles with the 24/7 title. But Rhea ended up beating Dana Brooke's ass in like 5 minutes. And then, Rhea Ripley, she's got to play her monster heel self. Dawn was like, it's time to torture Dana Brooke even more. Rhea went for another cloverleaf. And Natalya's music hits. And legitimately, Raw's roster is so weird that I forgot Natalya got drafted to Raw. I just assumed that Natalya was on SmackDown, because SmackDown's women's division is kind of loaded with the top stars. But Natalya's on Raw, and Natalya took forever to get to the ring. It's almost like she's like, torture Dana Brooke a little bit more. I'll be there in a minute. But Natalya, it seems like there's only one thing for this. I don't think it'll be on a random Raw. I think they'll just put this on the Night of Champions card. Personally, it makes sense, because Natalya already had a women's match against Lacey Evans in Saudi Arabia. So, Natalya has had experience fighting in Saudi Arabia before. But personally, if you want to ask me, I think this is a really good matchup. People disrespect Natalya. Natalya has her match, and people are like, oh, Natalya is actually good. Personally, I think Rhea versus Natalya isn't bad. And as long as it doesn't happen at a major, major show, like I don't think Night of Champions is a major, major show, I'm fine with it. Especially a Saudi pay-per-view. I don't really care if it happens there. Next up, we had Zoe Stark. And Personally, Zoe Stark's mic work has always needed change, but the one thing is that her wrestling ability is one of the best of all the NXT call-ups. Though Nikki Cross, their first rival, is a little bit weird, but I think it's getting out of the phase of Zoe Stark just roasting people. But to me, Zoe Stark versus Nikki Cross was made official for tonight, which I really like. You really thought Zoe Stark was just gonna take a loss in their first NXT match? Sean probably rang up Triple H and he's like, "Yeah, I will sweet chin music your ass if you make Zoe lose her first match on Raw." So it's gotta be against Nikki Cross. Non-WWE related, WWE randomly brought up a graphic of the NXT Women's Championship Tournament stuff, and Roxanne and JC Jane is one matchup, Gigi versus Tiffany is one, Valkyria versus Kiana James. We all know Lyra Valkyria is winning that, and Fallon Henley versus Cora Jade. Personally, real quick, I think it's gonna be Roxanne versus Cora Jade to finish off the Roxanne versus Cora Jade feud. That's what I think. Next up, we had our Imperium versus KO and Sammy match. It was a good match. I just like any match Imperiums, and it ended up being a really cool match. Hopefully, we see more matches like this down the road. But it was more comedy from Kevin Owens when Imperium were making their entrance. KO couldn't take him seriously, which is hilarious because the New Day did the same exact thing on an episode of SmackDown once, where Xavier Woods and Kofi were making fun of Imperium. But KO and Sammy won as expected. Personally, good match. Nothing major, but KO and Sammy win again. So next up, we had one of the bigger things on Raw. The Way, Indy Hartwell's first ever appearance on Raw, and she quickly found Dexter Lumis, Gargano, and Candice. And I don't need to tell you this, but The Way is back. They're reunited and they're back, and it seems like, according to several news sources, Triple H has got plans for them, and it seems like that they are going to be pushed heavily on Raw, which is only good news. I absolutely love this. They were one of my favorite things ever in NXT, and I cannot wait to see this play out on the main roster. It just feels so good to see NXT storylines, NXT factions finally pan out on the main roster. Really kind of tells you who's in charge, isn't it? But Johnny Gargano left an interesting thing where he said that he's coming back soon. And that can only mean one thing. His best ever friend in wrestling, it's Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa's been out for a long time, though. It was a serious procedure, I believe, that needed to be done. But it looks like Tommaso Ciampa is going to be back soon. And my goodness, I'm going to pop heavily because Tommaso Ciampa is so goddamn good. Again, one of my favorite NXT wrestlers, had some of the best NXT matches. And partnering up with Gargano is a no-brainer. Ciampa was sort of becoming a babyface anyways by getting sick of The Miz, I guess. But seeing Ciampa back with Gargano, it's the only move. It's the only move that I want to see. And, Austin Theory isn't there anymore, so why not just throw Ciampa in there? And maybe have Ciampa become the muscle of The Way, like the serious member, which I think would be cool. Next up, we had a funny segment. Xavier Woods popped up on Raw for the first time with Akira Tozawa randomly in the background. And we basically got a setup of Xavier Woods not liking Dom on the same brand as him. And we got Xavier Woods versus Dom later on. I like how Tozawa ran away when Rhea came over. I thought that was good entertainment. Tozawa is really becoming an entertainment value man on Raw, which if he gets used, that's fine. But to me, this was a good backstage segment. And then we had the Trish Stratus thing, where she's planting the missing Becky Lynch posters, which was rumored to be a thing. And last seen getting a beatdown courtesy of the GOAT Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. I think Trish is playing her heel role perfectly. Trish can do anything. Are we surprised that she can play a major heel? No, she's done it before. She's done everything before. So, and the way Trish speaks as a heel is just so badass to me. It's like she's speaking as a heel like she doesn't give a shit, which I really love. It's like she doesn't give a shit about anybody. And it doesn't matter, and she doesn't care about Becky Lynch. She doesn't care that Becky Lynch is mega over every time. No, it doesn't matter. But Trish came out, cut a great promo. though, we didn't have a great crowd in Jacksonville last night, so, you wouldn't be able to tell by the fact that we had a bad crowd. And people are like, well, it's not a bad crowd compared to the Puerto Rico crowd. First, they were not in sync with Seth. They didn't cheer enough during the triple threat matches, and there were some matches where they didn't react to anything. Don't tell me that. They were a bad crowd. Just admit it. Just admit it. They're a bad crowd. But Trish sort of trolled the WWE, this crowd, with a fake Becky Lynch entrance, which I really loved because, F the crowd. But, then it played again and Trish was kind of confused. And then we got Becky Lynch looking beautiful as ever. And Becky Lynch finally got to kick Trish Stratus' ass out of the ring and then cut her mic off, which was interesting. I have no idea if that was planned or not. I'll have to wait for Fightful to come out with that one. But, overall, this was one of my favorite segments last night. Good to see Becky back. It's always good to have Becky on the women's roster. It's better to have her on the roster than not. And this build to Trish and Becky, which I think will culminate at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, it's going to be, you can tell that WWE is planning a massive build for it, which I love. Next up, we had Dom versus Xavier Woods. The match was all right. I wasn't really invested into it, to be honest, because I was really much looking forward to Seth versus Finn later on in the night. But the match was great. Rhea, the way Rhea was cheering for Dom, I just, my eyes have a mind of their own. But Dom ended up winning, which was surprising. I thought Xavier Woods was going to win, but no, Xavier Woods loses in his Raw debut since being drafted over there. Dom wins. Interestingly enough, they give Dom the win, and at least one member of Judgment Day at least two of the members of Judgment Day won, and the other two members of Judgment Day did not win. Which, then we got a backstage segment. A lot of people came at me for this segment. Now, the segment starts with Sonya and Chelsea, which I think this is a genius way to use them. The petition for them to get a tag team title opportunity and all that. They're booking Sonya and Chelsea exactly how I would book them and exactly how they should be booked. And then we saw Liv and Raquel because they got drafted to Raw. And once again, I forgot because I thought SmackDown is so loaded. I thought Liv and Raquel were somehow on SmackDown, but they're on Raw and they are the women's tag team champions, which I like that. But Chelsea and Sonya is sort of like, you know what? We want a tag team title rematch. Even though Liv and Raquel beat them with ease, they're like, you know what? We want another tag team title match. Which I don't mind because Chelsea and Sonya are playing their roles such to perfection. I don't even care if they get a tag team title rematch. Their character work alone deserve to have a tag team title rematch. And basically, Liv and Raquel were like, Sonya and Chelsea were kind of like, oh, I think Damage Control is going to win next week. The one thing I don't like about this is I think it gives away the ending because the heels are never right. Sonya and Chelsea maybe are going to try to high IQ Raquel and Liv. But personally, at the end of the day, WWE's got to have Chelsea and Sonya be wrong all the time. This women's tag team title match is, I love Damage Control, so I'm really looking forward to this match. I just think they shouldn't have left out the fact, they shouldn't have done this the night of, like they shouldn't have handed them the thing and it's like, oh, you're actually signing a petition to have us face you guys tonight. But instead, they do this 1 week earlier and it's like, yeah, now I'm kind of thinking that Liv and Raquel are going to retain the titles. Now I just can't watch this match in peace. Next up, we had a Cody Rhodes interview backstage. Pretty much all it was is that Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar is on for Night of Champions. That's pretty much all that was. Cody Rhodes this is as angry. The part I love about this build is that Cody Rhodes is finally not smiling all the damn time. He's finally getting mad, which I like. And Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar needs a stipulation at Night of Champions. It definitely does. Seeing how personal this is getting, we need to throw in a stipulation. Sort of like Seth Rollins versus Riddle half a year ago. They got really personal with each other and they threw in a stip. I think they need to do that with Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Next up, we had a random promo with the Indus Sher, which I was not expecting. I am happy to see Jinder Mahal back on the main roster. But Veer and Sangha, I don't know. But I just wanted to drop this picture because I thought it was appropriate that Veer Mahan is coming to Raw again. You guys may have seen the tweet that last night. You guys know I like that humor. I love that humor when they first debuted it. But anyways, we got the official confirmation of the women's tag team titles being on the line next Monday. Chelsea and Sonya versus Liv and Raquel, or Bayley and Dakota Kai. If it's Bayley and Dakota Kai, it's a mother off. But Liv and Raquel versus Chelsea and Sonya, it doesn't move me. I think Damage Control would be a better matchup here. If you guys saw my tweets again, follow me on Twitter. I'll do the majority of my WWE opinions and stuff over there. But I think either way, I like this. The women's tag team titles need to be on the line more often, and I think the women's tag team division improved at the draft, and it's time that we utilize it. They will utilize it soon. I think Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are definitely going to be getting a tag team title opportunity quickly. I mean, the way that they're booking the women's tag team division, I wouldn't be surprised if they got it in their first or second week. Next up, we had Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. And yeah, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor was a banger. This was the main event that I was hoping from the very beginning. I didn't fall into the spoilers of who was going to advance. So seeing Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor was peak. And I also love that Finn Balor called back the 2016 sadly infamous shoulder injury in Seth and Finn's Universal title match. And Finn not only did that thing to Seth and the barricade, but he's like, how do you like it? Like, that stuff right there, I absolutely love, and I love when they do that. It builds the rivalry. Anyways, there's one obvious winner. Seth is going to go to Night of Champions. He beats Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins is going to be fighting at Night of Champions May 27th, a couple days from my birthday, on Peacock or wherever you watch WWE Network. And this image is appropriate to end the show because it has to happen. It has to happen. Seth Rollins has to become the inaugural World Heavyweight Champion, or at least the new flavor of one. So, pretty much that was it for Raw. Like I said, Zoe Stark also won her debut. I completely forgot to do Zoe Stark versus Nikki Cross, but Zoe Stark won, by the way. You guys probably don't need me to tell you that. But overall, this episode of Raw was nothing special. It was still a good watch, but I would say it's on the regular watch a good. My favorite part was Seth Rollins and Finn Balor later in the night, and the Brock Lesnar thing. And honestly, solid episode of Raw. I wouldn't say anything blew me away. But SmackDown this Friday, I think, is going to be much better. It's going to be much more eventful. So I'll see you guys in the